I'm going to do another fantasy draft. And what I usually do when it comes to fantasy drafts is I have multiple teams every year, each one of them drafted at a different stage of the season. The first one is always just basically as soon as it becomes available. And I like it because it gets to test, my knowledge just of, you get to try to build a best team based on just what happened last year, and the rosters that are currently available based on, draft and free agency so far. And then then the next time I draft is usually after preseason, but I try to get it in at least a few days before week 1 is played. And this can be good because then after you've seen preseason, you're still basically going by last year, but you get to watch a little bit, not actual games, but at least you get to see the players, you get to see how well in shape they are. And it is a lot of people are down on preseason, but I love it. It is a good way to evaluate your talent, because I know one year specifically I was watching preseason and I noticed Arian Foster. I loved the way he ran. I knew this guy could be a beast, and he was available in all of my fantasy leagues. I had 3 at the time, and so I picked him up as a free agent in every one of those leagues. He went in there week 1 against the Colts and he got 41 points. And on one of my teams I had him and Peyton Manning, and the two of them, I rode them to the playoffs all very easily. Because on that 1 week alone, Arian Foster had 41 points. Peyton Manning, he had 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, so he had I think around 30 points that week. So yeah, preseason can be a good thing if you know how to use it effectively. And then I'll also do 1, maybe even 2 during the regular season, just based on what's happened so far, which players have emerged already early on, like after week 1 or after week 6, week 8. Based on what they've done so far in the season, what will we see the rest of the season. And also, if it's available, I don't know if I can still do it now. I know formats have changed, stuff like that, but one thing I used to do, I haven't done in a few years, is wait till the very last week of eligibility and then try to build a team. And it's fun, it's exciting, because you have 1 week to make the playoffs. So in that 1 week, you not only have to win the game, but you have to get the most points in fantasy, because then the top 4 you have half the teams are 1-0, the other half are 0-1, and the top 4 teams that scored the most points get to the playoffs. And it's very fun and interesting. It's an exciting little challenge. It's something I enjoy doing. And in my next fantasy draft, I really don't know. I think I'm going to stick to relatively the same strategy, and that's to go for a halfback. There are very few elite fantasy halfbacks. My top 6 picks, my top 5 guys, first, Ray Rice, Lesean Mccoy, and Arian Foster. Those are the only 3 guys guaranteed to produce. Another guy that would be in there would be Adrian Peterson, except for the fact that he is coming off of an injury. And so I'm have him a little lower on the list this year. But after the season, if he produces very well and he is healthy, then he's going right back into my top 5. It's Adrian Peterson. But after those 2, the top quarterbacks are definitely Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers. They are guaranteed to give you huge numbers. And so those are my top 5 picks. So I'm in the first round. I'm going to take one of those guys. If none of them is available, it depends on what's left. Because Tom Brady was available pretty late in the second round. So there's a good chance I'll end up going with him. He's got a lot of great weapons around him. A trend that I'm definitely noticing, people taking wide receivers in the first round. They're taking Victor Cruz, Rob Gronkowski, and especially Calvin Johnson pretty early on. I'm not going to do that just because I'm gonna try to avoid doing that if possible, just because there are a shit ton of really great receivers out there. A lot of guys who can get you 100-yard games, who can find the end zone. And so I'm usually going to try to get a running back first, because there are not a lot of elite running backs. For me, the only ones guaranteed to produce this year are Lesean, Rice, and of course Foster. Everyone else, there's still question marks. DeMarco Murray, he hasn't had a full season yet. You got to wonder, how well is he going to respond to the injury? How many touches will Felix Jones steal from him? And also, how is he going to respond to being the number one back for the team? I mean, don't forget, last year, no one knew who he was, how to game plan against him, and of course he went against teams like the Rams, which, they sucked. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any actual progression in the second year. There are still a lot of questions about a lot of these guys out here. So there are others I'd consider taking, but if it's not one of those three halfbacks, Rice, McCoy, and Foster, then I'm probably going to end up taking a QB in the first round. Because while there are a lot of good QBs available, there are very few elite guys. So me, if I can, my first two picks are going to be a halfback and a QB. Preferably Lesean Mccoy and Aaron Rodgers. And after that, well, honestly, I don't even know if I can get those two, but it just depends on what's available. No, you have your strategy, what you want to do, but it always comes down to what the other guys do, and you've got to find good ways to respond to them in the moment.